All right. Hey everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's session, where we will be talking about the newly launched Amazon Managed Service for Grafana. My name is Helen Lin. I'm a product manager here at AWS, and I'm super excited to be joined by special guest Raj Dutt, CEO and co-founder of Grafana Labs. In today's session, we'll start off by talking a little bit about what is observability, what are some of the common challenges that we face when it comes to monitoring observability, and how Grafana has really evolved to become a well-loved platform in the observability space. Then we'll dive into the newly launched Amazon Managed Service for Grafana, talk about some of the key features and benefits, and we'll wrap up today's session with a demo and some key takeaways to help you get started with using the new service. All right, so if you're in this session, you've probably already heard the words application, infrastructure monitoring, observability used in different contexts, right? And at times with different definitions, depending on the audience that you're speaking with, right? For example, Gartner defines it as an evolution of monitoring. Others have defined it, as a bringing together of metrics, logs, and traces for a 360 view of your application health and performance, right? But regardless of how you define it, there are a few common challenges that we all face when it comes to observability. Whether you're an operator or a developer, SRE, cloud architect, IT or application team leader, one of the common challenges we've heard, right, is just the proliferation of different monitoring tools out there that result in data silos, right? People tend to adopt the tools that they've previously used that they're familiar with. And while this tooling flexibility is great for individual teams, what you end up with is, data that's collected, stored, and visualized in different data silos. And so when you're trying to troubleshoot an issue, or let's say that you want to get a consolidated view of your organization, whether it be across applications, across teams, regions, accounts, you end up with data stored in these different tools, each with their own consoles. And so instead of a single pane of glass, right, what you actually have are multiple single panes of glass. And so when an issue occurs, how do you know which data type to query and visualize? How do you correlate across your metrics, your logs, traces, and events that are stored in different tools and figure out how one data signal relates to another to help you connect the dots and help isolate the issue a little bit faster? So, we've probably all heard this story before, if you're in the session, right? You've got Alice, who's a web developer. She gets paged when there's a spike in app request latency, causing a slowdown. She checks the alarm, some key metrics on her ops dashboard. She's checking out the request latency, error rate, etc., right? And her team's app is mostly built on containers, and they've primarily adopted a variety of open source tooling, such as Prometheus and Elasticsearch for metrics and logs. And so as she's doing, log diving, she realizes that the application error is actually related to backend, database dependency that's actually managed by a different team. That's Bob's team, right? So she pages Bob. But Bob's team uses different monitoring tools, and they primarily leverage, AWS services such as CloudWatch and X-Ray, and some third-party partner tools. And so when he gets paged, right, his dashboard shows some very different metrics than what Alice sees. And so instead of troubleshooting and performing log queries on the same dashboard or the same tool, right, Bob and Alice waste a lot of time trying to debug the same issue, but using partial sets of data that describe only the components that their team is responsible for. And so the question is, how do we help Bob and Alice get to a consolidated view of the different components in an application stack, right, that are managed by different teams, all with their own metrics, logs, and traces that define their app or component health? How can Alice and Bob reduce the time it takes to correlate the error rate metric, for example, that Alice saw on her dashboard to the database execution error that Tom's team eventually finds, right? And so this is really where Grafana comes in. And there's really no one better to speak about how Grafana has solved this common observability problem for customers than Raj Dutt, CEO and co-founder of Grafana Labs, joining us here today to discuss how Grafana has evolved into a tool that really helps builders and operators all over the world bring disparate data sources into a single place.
Thanks, Helen. Hi, everyone. My name's Raj Dutt, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Grafana Labs. So I'm really excited to be here to talk about Grafana and what we're up to with AWS. Grafana's become the most popular visualization software in the world for operational data. It's unique because it helps you combine your data, no matter where it lives, in real time. In fact, there are over 80 different data sources that Grafana can connect to and bring together beautifully. So Grafana's really flourished over the last 6 years since it was released by our co-founder, Torkel Odegaard. In the Cloud Native Compute Foundation's end-user technology radar from just a couple of months ago, Grafana, Prometheus, and OpenMetrics, which are 3 projects which Grafana Labs is heavily involved in, were at the highest level of adoption, adopt. This is a testament to just how widely the Grafana core projects are adopted, and we're really honored to be at the center of mass for such a vibrant global open source community. They really help us build better software every day. Grafana itself has grown to over 600,000 active installations around the world and over 4 million active users. Now, Grafana is mainly used for observability and operational intelligence, DevOps, helping you run your IT and infrastructure and applications better. But Grafana can also be used for a wide variety of other use cases, everything from industrial Internet of Things to robotics to sensors to financial data, running power plants, just about everything. Now, the Grafana platform is composable. This means you can make your own decisions around your observability stack. We really believe that our customers should own their own observability strategy, not a single vendor. Now, as Helen mentioned, the key telemetry data types for observability are metrics, logs, and traces. Grafana can bring together your metrics using projects like Prometheus, Graphite, InfluxDB, Timescale, as well as vendors like Datadog and New Relic. We can also bring together your logs from projects such as Grafana Loki, vendors such as Splunk and Humio, Elasticsearch. We can also bring together your traces from projects like Jaeger, Zipkin, or Amazon X-Ray. But most of all, more importantly than the raw telemetry data is correlation, and Grafana really shines in that regard. Grafana is all about providing a seamless experience for you to switch between these different telemetry types. And moving beyond metrics, logs, and traces, we also bring in contextual business data, things from like your service desk, or maybe from across your software development lifecycle from vendors such as GitHub. Now, users have described Grafana in various ways, and we love hearing from our users that use the open source software. Some of the things they've said recently are that Grafana is amazing, beautiful, super easy to use. Work is just an excuse for using Grafana. I don't know about that one. But people are really passionate about Grafana, and they take pride in their dashboards that they create. And some of our users and customers are on this screen. Of particular interest is the one on the top left. That's a SpaceX launch center. We didn't even know that SpaceX was using Grafana until one of our developers caught sight of it on a CNN clip at their launch control for Falcon Heavy. Exciting stuff. People are really passionate about Grafana, and they have a visceral feel for the kind of dashboards that they build. But I'm so pleased to announce the partnership between Grafana Labs and AWS, both on the technical side and the go-to-market side. We've been working with AWS for many months, and it's been a real pleasure to work with Helen and the team here. Grafana Labs believes in giving our users choice on where they want to run Grafana, and many of our users are on AWS, and this partnership helps meet them where they already are. Over to Helen to talk more about the Amazon managed service for Grafana. Thanks.
All right, thanks Raj for that great overview. You know, it really has been amazing to watch Grafana's installs grow triple digits year over year, right? I think it's really a great testament to the product that Grafana Labs and the broader open source community has built over the years. So it's really no surprise then that our customers have asked AWS to offer a fully managed Grafana service to help them sort of remove the undifferentiated heavy lifting of managing Grafana servers and let them focus on using Grafana for what it does best, right? Bringing data sources together in a powerful and interactive visualization experience to enable them to gain insight, for example, to app performance, troubleshoot issues collaboratively without friction, help them resolve issues as quickly as possible without having to console hop. And so in partnership with Grafana Labs, we're super excited to be launching the new Amazon managed service for Grafana, available in preview today. With the new Amazon managed Grafana service, right, it enables our customers to create on-demand, fully managed serverless Grafana workspaces and instantly have access to virtual Grafana server environments so that they can consolidate multiple data sources into a single place. And as we were developing the managed service together with Grafana Labs, we wanted to make sure that the managed service addresses some of the top asks that we've heard from our customers over time. For example, the first and foremost top of mind from what customers have told us is that they need enterprise-ready authentication and security capabilities so they can safely roll out Grafana corporate-wide for broad adoption, while still staying compliant with corporate governance and security postures, right? So to achieve that, we've added secure user authentication via AWS single sign-on integration that connects to multiple backend IDPs and enables our customers to leverage their existing corporate directories and as the authentication and authorization enforcement mechanism for granting and controlling user access, right? And AWS SSO supports multiple IDPs such as Azure AD, Okta, OneLogin, Ping Identity to give our customers flexibility. Another top request that we heard, right, is the ability to audit user and system access, whether it's for compliance or security tracking purposes. And so with AWS CloudTrail integration, right, customers can now easily track who, what, and when changes and data access were made in their Grafana workspaces. And with a managed Grafana service, right, your data is encrypted in transit and at rest, and data access is through secure VPC connections between the managed Grafana service and the AWS services that it's accessing, as long as they're in the same region and support VPC. This just ensures that your data doesn't traverse the public internet. All right, so with a fully managed Grafana service, we wanted to help our customers remove some of the, offload some of the operational management of Grafana service for our customers, right? Freeing up developer and operator time to focus on leveraging Grafana for its rich, interactive data visualizations. So what does this mean, right? So this means that we auto-scale the resources required to support a Grafana workspace on demand, right? Regardless of whether you're a small startup with just tens of users or you're a large enterprise with thousands of users. And to make sure that the Grafana workspaces are reliable and readily accessible, each Grafana workspace is deployed across multiple AZs for high availability, right? And by removing the ops load of managing Grafana servers, you don't have to worry about software and security patches, such as to address the latest security vulnerabilities or manage version upgrades to take advantage, of the latest Grafana releases. All of that is sort of managed for you with the Amazon Managed Service for Grafana. Now, the managed service also helps customers simplify the setup and configuration of their data sources by natively integrating with multiple AWS services. Imagine that you've got hundreds of accounts, right? And if you wanted to configure each of those accounts as a data source in your Grafana workspace, today you have to add them and configure them one by one. With the native integration with multiple AWS services, including Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus, Amazon CloudWatch, AWS X-Ray, Amazon Elasticsearch Service, Amazon TimeStream, AWS IoT Sitewise, and Amazon SNS, the managed Grafana servers will actually automatically discover all the accounts and resources you have for each of these supported services. So all you have to do, is log into the Grafana UI, click on the accounts and regions you want to add, and the managed Grafana service will actually create the necessary read permissions to be able to access these accounts and services so that you don't have to manually copy and paste over your credentials, or go read documentation and figure out how to create IAM roles and policies for data access, right? The goal was really just to help our customers sort of simplify the overall setup and reduce the configuration burden for our customers so that they can quickly get started with using Grafana. And speaking of data sources, right, it's not just AWS services that you can query and visualize data from. The managed Grafana service also supports a plethora of other plugins like Grafana Labs and its community have built over the years, right? So as you can see from this list, customers can also integrate, for example, their self-managed Graphite or InfluxDB data sources, or if they want to consolidate observability data stored, for example, in other clouds, they can do that as well using the supported data source plugins. And as Raj from Grafana Labs alluded to earlier, right, this managed offering truly is a service developed in partnership across engineering and product teams from both AWS and Grafana Labs. But it's not just the development partnership that's been unique, right? The managed Grafana service also enables customers to perform an inline upgrade of their Grafana workspaces to Grafana Labs' enterprise offering directly from within the AWS console. What this means is that customers can continue to leverage the benefit of a fully managed service operating on AWS with high availability, but with the expanded feature set that comes from Grafana Labs' enterprise offering. So with that, Raj, do you want to share a little bit more details about what's available to customers with the enterprise upgrade?
Thanks, Helen. So one of the things I'm really excited about is the ability of customers of Amazon Managed Grafana to upgrade to the full experience of Grafana Enterprise. Grafana Enterprise is the ultimate edition of Grafana and is designed for the largest and most sophisticated users of Grafana. And customers of Amazon Managed Grafana can easily upgrade to Grafana Enterprise right from within the service. I'd love to tell you more about the benefits of Grafana Enterprise. So Grafana Enterprise extends the data sources that come with Grafana with additional enterprise plugins. In addition to all the data sources built into Grafana itself, customers who upgrade get access to data sources for the wider observability ecosystem. Grafana Enterprise truly helps you amplify and unify your existing observability investments. Whether using Datadog, Splunk, New Relic, Dynatrace, Wavefront, or myriad others, you can use Grafana Enterprise to bring all your data together and help build a complete picture for your applications and infrastructure. In addition to the enterprise data source plugins, enterprise customers get 24/7, 365 expert support from Grafana Labs, the team behind the software. Customers also get tailored training and on-demand content, everything you need to get the most out of your Grafana and your entire observability stack. Here's a sample dashboard from Grafana Enterprise that shows running containers, logs by containers, and brings together data not just from Splunk, but ServiceNow, New Relic, and other vendors. You can bring all this data together contextually using Grafana Enterprise. And now Helen will go over a demo of the Amazon Managed Grafana service itself. Over to you, Helen.
All right, so let's walk through an example of how the new Amazon Managed Service for Grafana can help Bob and Alice solve their observability needs. Now, they're part of an automotive company, and their team is focused on building digital innovation products for consumer-facing web and mobile car applications, right? So their apps are built on multiple AWS services, including EC2, DynamoDB, S3, Elastic Kubernetes Service, amongst others. Let me show you how they can easily create a Grafana workspace. Think of that as just a virtual Grafana server with a few clicks in the AWS console. So we'll start off by searching for the Grafana service. And once I'm on the service homepage, I can click on the Create Workspace button, give the workspace a name, call it Dev. I can optionally give it a description, something like Monitor Dev Account, right? And then on the next page here, it's going to check to see whether I have AWS Single Sign-On enabled, because this is how I'm going to be able to grant users access to the workspace. Next, I can configure how I want to grant the Grafana workspace permissions to access my AWS services data. So for example, if I click on Customer Manage, that requires me to go and create my own IAM role and attach the policies to be able to access my AWS services data. But let's say that I want to automate that and sort of offload that and have the service create the IAM roles and attach the right policies. I can click on Service Manage, and on the next screen here, I can define the scope of what that role has access to. So for example, if I wanted to centralize multiple application teams and accounts into this single Grafana workspace, I can click on Organization and add multiple organizational unit IDs here. But let's say that I'm really only interested, in granting access to resources in my local account. I can come down here and then select the data sources that I'm interested in granting read permissions to. So I'm actually interested in all of them. I wanted to be able to visualize my IoT Sitewise data, my X-ray data, CloudWatch, Elasticsearch service data, the newly launched Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus data, as well as TimeStream. And then I can also select Amazon SNS because I want to be able to send my Grafana alerts to SNS topics as a destination. Click on Next. I can review the selections I've just configured, and then I'll click Create Workspace. And what this is now going to go and do is it's going to go and provision the resources required for this Grafana workspace. It will then generate a URL that I can pass on to my users so that they can access the Grafana workspace directly through the URL. Alternatively, I can also log in through the AWS console and access the URL through the workspace details here. On the bottom here, this is where I would go in and configure users from my AWS SSO to be able to grant them access to this particular Grafana workspace. All right, while this is creating, let me show you an existing Grafana workspace that's already been created that Bob and Alice are a part of, right? So this is the central Grafana workspace that Bob and Alice's organization where multiple application teams are all leveraging. So as you can see on the bottom here, there have been multiple users that have already been granted access to this workspace. So let's go check it out. So if I click on the URL, because I've already been authenticated, I don't need to log back in. And there's a couple of things I want to do now that I'm in the workspace. I want to be able to add a new data source, and then I want to be able to visualize data from that data source. So let's click on data source. And let's say that I'm interested in adding a new CloudWatch account. So I search for CloudWatch. And now, while I can come in here and manually provide the credentials required to access this particular CloudWatch account, let's say that I wanted to configure and add hundreds of resources and hundreds of accounts, right? There's a simpler way to do that. So if I click on the AWS data source option here, what I can now go and do is click on data source and select the AWS service that I'm interested in adding. So for example, I'm interested in adding AWS CloudWatch, Amazon CloudWatch. And as you recall, during the create workflow, I granted it read permissions for specific accounts or organizational unit IDs. What that will now go do is it will go and automatically discover the resources and accounts that I have for each of these services. And as you can see here, I've got 2 accounts that I can add to this Grafana workspace. So let's say that I'm interested in adding the 418 account. Click on that. And what it's going to now go and do is it's going to go and provision that and add that as a data source to this Grafana workspace. So if I click on the settings, as you can see here, instead of me having to create the IAM role myself and copy and paste that permissions here, right, it just automatically configure that for me. Now the great thing about Grafana is it comes with a lot of pre-built dashboards that help you get started so that you don't have to build dashboards from scratch. So for example, it's got EC2 dashboards where I can visualize CPU, network I/O, disk utilization metrics, etc. I can also visualize my EBS metrics, Lambda metrics, RDS metrics, etc. All right. So as I mentioned previously, Bob and Alice are part of this broader organization that are all leveraging this single Grafana workspace for their use cases. Now, they're part of the web app team, so let's go check out the dashboards that they've already created for their team. So in this web app dashboard folder here, let's say that Alice, gets paged. She wants to come in and check out the overall health of her Kubernetes cluster. So she clicks on that. And now what she's visualizing here is data that she has collected, ingested, and stored in her Amazon managed service for Prometheus workspaces. And at a glance here, she can take a look at the health and performance at the cluster level, or the node level, or at the pod level, right? It just gives her different levels of granularity when she wants to visualize the performance or troubleshoot issues. Now, let's say that her team also collects log data and sends that to the Amazon Elasticsearch service. So let's go check out what that dashboard will look like. So in this dashboard here, as you can see here, they've got a heat map that's tracking, the average sales price occurring in the last 6 hours, so that they can spot check just to make sure that there aren't any sort of abnormalities occurring in the application. They're also tracking HTTP 200 and 404 response codes. And as you can see here, there's a couple of, abnormal spikes that are occurring in terms of 404 errors. So let's go check out the application trace logs that is being ingested from AWS X-Ray. So as you can see from this dashboard here, I can take a look at multiple, trace IDs, and I can check out, which ones seem to be having a longer than expected response time, right? So if I scroll down here, I see here now that this particular trace ID seems to be taking a little bit longer. So if I click on that, I can investigate a little bit further. And now in this view, I can now take a look at the segment timeline and see all the interactions that the application is making to different components along this request path, right? So this just helps me identify and isolate, which components, latencies or errors may be occurring along this request path. All right, so that's great for Alice's team, right? And when an issue occurs, she pages Bob, but Bob's team actually uses slightly different tooling for their operational dashboards. So when Bob gets paged, he actually comes into the same web app folder, and he clicks on his application logs that they ingest and store in Amazon CloudWatch logs. So for example, as you can see from this dashboard here, he can take a look at the most recent log events, and you can also see the most recent log messages that are throwing exception errors. So for example, if he wants to investigate a little bit more into this Microsoft.ASP core error message here, you can click on that. And what that's actually going to do is it's going to deep link into the CloudWatch Logs Insights console. And from here, they can do a little bit more deep dive into the various log messages as well. For example, they can take a look at the histogram, of all the exceptions that have occurred, within the last 6 hours or so. All right, so while that's great for Bob and Alice's team, as I mentioned earlier, right, it's not just the web application team that's leveraging this Grafana workspace. They're part of a broader organization, that also has industrial IoT use cases, right? So they're also building cars, they've got these manufacturing plants, and they want to be able to monitor the physical devices in these various plant floors, right? So as you can see here in this IoT plant floor dashboard folder, I can actually come in here and define specific access permissions and scope that down to the correct teams or the correct users, and make sure that only the right users have access to the dashboards in this folder. All right, so let's take a look at, for example, the overall health of plant A. So if I click on that dashboard, this data is being powered by AWS IoT Sitewise. And at a glance, I can take a look at the overall factory performance. For example, I can take a look at total production volume and power consumption. But let's say that I want to drill down a little bit more into specific assets, where I can come down here and I can take a look at asset health and performance and look at various metrics that describe the asset itself. On the bottom here, I also have an alert status panel, just to make sure that if there are issues occurring, I can quickly take a look and track those errors down. Luckily, no errors have occurred in the last 2 days, so nothing's showing up here. Now, let's say that in addition to the manufacturing plant physical devices, they're also tracking additional metrics for the software that's being deployed and the smart cars being built in this manufacturing plant. So let's take a look at the metrics that are being ingested into Amazon TimeStream that's tracking the device software in each of these smart cars, right? So as you can see here, there are multiple different metrics that I can take a look at that describe the metrics for these smart cars. All right, so while that's great, for the teams that are leveraging open source tooling and AWS services as well, the reality is that Bob and Alice are part of a broader organization where some of the other teams are also leveraging enterprise tooling and third-party partner software. Now, how do we grant teams that leverage those tooling access and the ability to consolidate their data into this single Grafana workspace as well? So to do that, I'm actually going to pass it back to Raj, where he's going to talk a little bit about the benefits of upgrading to Grafana Enterprise and how we can help users consolidate all of their data into this single Grafana workspace. Raj?
Thanks, Helen. So let's do a quick demo of Grafana Enterprise. And let's go back to Alice. Now, she's just had to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. She got an alert, typical life of an SRE, and she has to troubleshoot a production issue under pressure. Now, Alice's company has a complex and diverse observability stack. It encompasses many great vendors beyond just AWS services. Now, without Grafana Enterprise, in order to understand the problem, Alice would have to log into several disparate systems. Now, each of these vendors has its strengths, but to get a complete picture, Alice would not only have to log into each one, she'd have to context switch each time, jumping between tabs, transposing queries between systems, zooming over and over into the same time ranges, selecting the same clusters, and mentally pattern matching the whole time. This process is completely suboptimal. Instead, using Grafana Enterprise, Alice can close down all these other tabs and eliminate the suboptimal workflow, and jump right into a view of her metrics, logs, and traces, as well as contextual business information that make perfect contextual sense for her and her team, a view that breaks down all of these silos. So let's do just that. So here's a dashboard that Alice and her team have created to give them the perfect view into the health and performance of their application and infrastructure. You can see that we've got application transaction rates, CPU usage, looks like she's got some CPU starvation going on, memory, host I/O activity, throughput, all coming from New Relic. On the top right, we've got some container statistics coming from Datadog. But we need to go deeper. So here, right within the same dashboard, we're pulling in relevant Splunk logs specific to the application, pod, and cluster that Alice is looking at. And we can jump into the Explore mode to dive deeper into these logs. But it doesn't stop with just application infrastructure metrics. Wouldn't it be great if Alice could also bring in relevant business and service information? Well, Grafana Enterprise allows you to do just that. Let's take a look. So here we're pulling in the internal IT help desk, information about outages from ServiceNow. Doesn't look like there's any planned maintenance going on. And on the left, we see the warehouse backlog for each of the 2 main warehouses being pulled directly from Snowflake in real time. Looks like the issue is causing a jam in one of the warehouses. All this additional information allows Alice to achieve end-to-end observability. And all of this data is coming straight from the underlying vendors, exposing data and uncovering insights from where it already lives. No batch uploads, ETL jobs, or rip and replace. And this data, each panel has a native experience specific to the underlying data source. So let's take a look at Datadog. You see the Datadog data source is selected here, and we get a custom query editor that is specific to Datadog, allowing Alice's team to build queries in a really easy to use way. And it's not just visualization. We can alert on this data, and we can even transform it, combining it, doing calculations on it, joins on it. You can even do transformations between different data sources to get composite metrics. Now, all of this is available as a seamless upgrade from the Amazon Managed Grafana service. Organizations can enjoy the full experience of Grafana Enterprise, access to all the enterprise plugins, 24/7 support from the experts at Grafana Labs, as well as professional services and training. Thanks. Back to you, Helen.
All right, so to recap, right, as you saw from the demo, it was very easy to create a Grafana workspace using the AWS managed service to bring together your observability data across multiple data sources and data types all together in a single place, while still maintaining data access separation using Grafana teams and access permissions. The second thing I want you to take away is that using the new service, your Grafana workspaces are fully managed with automatic security patching and version upgrades. It provides advanced authentication and auto logging for enterprise security governance. The service is natively integrated with AWS services to make it really easy for you to discover what accounts and resources you're already using in AWS across multiple regions and across multiple accounts by integrating with AWS organizations. Last but not least, you can also easily upgrade to Grafana Enterprise directly from the AWS console, giving you all the benefits of Grafana Enterprise, including enterprise plugins, support, additional training, all directly from Grafana Labs. And you can do all of that, right, while still receiving the benefits of having it fully managed on an AWS service. And so with that, here's a link to help you guys get started. Check out aws.amazon.com/Grafana. Join us also for the next session on December 17th at 1:30 p.m. where we'll have a What's Next live stream with Grafana's creator and co-founder Torkel Odegaard. We'll jump into a little bit more of a demo there as well. And also, if you've got the time, check out the other new service that we've launched, Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus, in the embargo session here. And with that, I want to thank all of you guys for joining us today to learn more about the newly launched Amazon Managed Service for Grafana. I also want to thank Raj from the Grafana Labs for joining us today for the new service announcement, and to his teams that have worked so diligently with our teams to bring the Managed Grafana service to life for our customers. We're really excited about the launch, really excited about the partnership we've developed here, and really excited for you guys to go out and try the service and tell us what you think. Thanks, guys.